Hi everyone, thank you for joining me again on an episode of the Caregivers World. Today I am very excited to discuss a subject that I don't believe many people realize the importance of. And in particular, this subject is something that I think is quite influential in the caregiving of our loved one, especially as the disease progresses. There is a specific term for this subject. It's called sundowning. Before I proceed, I just want to interject and say there are a lot of terms and important vocabulary that is perhaps geared more for professionals. I understand that not every single doctor is going to be presumptuous to know your level of understanding or knowledge regarding the disease or any disease, whether it's Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, autism, whatever disease, or even injuries and fractures, whatever your loved one possibly experiences or that you're caring for them. But I believe that it is important for us, the caregivers, to research and learn more and more about matters that could be affecting the care of our loved ones. Some of this that I'm referring to, aside from possible therapies, staying in touch with scientific developments and technological developments, it is also understanding terminology. And I think that there's more there's better guidance coming from doctors when you're able to address your concerns and the requirements that you have for your loved one's care if you know how to approach it in a slightly more, industry terminology. So that's just my 2 cents. But let's proceed with today's subject. So, sundowning. Um, Many of you, I'm sure, are going to relate to what I'm about to read you, and it is a compilation of resources that I put together, information that I gather from several places, and I will link those places in the podcast. I will definitely be sharing this with you. I actually had this information handy when we met with our loved one's neurologist. And it was a very interesting level of conversation. He was impressed that knew about it. He was impressed at the attention and level of interest that we have in our loved ones and, the desire to really look after them. It also helps a lot for caregivers understanding because you are looking at how to address this person's needs from understanding it, what the terms mean and what it is that you can do for yourself to help yourself. So let me go ahead. You're gonna possibly hear some clicking as I have the window here open next to me, but let me break it down for you. So let's start with the definition of what sundowning is. Sundowning is a term used to describe a phenomenon where people with dementia experience increased confusion, agitation, and other changes in behavior in the late afternoon or evening hours. So when you think of this, first of all, one of the first questions that I had was, is it based on season? So no, it's not really based on season. It's just when it gets darker outside. So for the people who experience seasons like we do in the U.S., for instance, in the winter, around 4:30 p.m., it already looks like it's nighttime and everyone needs to go to bed and sleep, which, as you can imagine, can be utterly confusing for our loved ones. In this case, I'll give you a personal example. I work until 5:30 p.m. and I don't get home until around 7 p.m. So from 4 p.m. till 7 p.m., our loved one is asking my sibling, where is Lena? Where is she? How come she's not home? What time is it? What time do we need to pick her up? And this will happen repeatedly for the following 3 hours. If it is summertime, obviously with daylight savings and whatnot, it's the complete opposite. It will be 9 o'clock, or sometimes 8:30, 9 o'clock in the evening, and she will look outside and be confused as to why she feels so sleepy and tired while it's so bright outside. So that can bring a lot of symptoms, which I will read you some of. Now, before I proceed, I want to tell you my resources for the information that I extracted. And I'm not saying that these are the only things that I've seen. I have looked at many different places that offer guidance about this, including the Alzheimer's Association. So I am gathering information here from the Harvard Medical School. I have information as well from the Mayo Clinic. I have information from the Alzheimer's Caregivers Network. And of course, we are very up to date with technology, and some of the information is also gathered by AI. So this is all the summary that I'm going to give you is things that they all have in common, and some that stood out, which I will highlight even more, are aspects that not many people have mentioned in multiple places. So one of the ones that I'm going to highlight that we had with our own loved one was something called shadowing. In essence, shadowing is following the caregiver around. Now, that also is just from acute anxiety. Our loved one no longer does it, but she would be so afraid and insecure that she would literally hold on to my sister, to the point that it looked a little weird and off-putting to people who don't know us, where she wouldn't be grabbing her by the arm like you would normally do it, but she would like be grabbing onto a piece of her jacket and be in horrible panic if she wasn't being like held like a child almost. But this is something that we were able to come to cease. I think it was through behavioral therapy and also medication. So that no longer happens, but it is something that happens a lot to people with sundowning. Another one that I found was not commonly in every place where I researched was becoming alarmed or frightened for no apparent reason. That's one that I guess it goes all along with anxiety, but that's not one that I saw being mentioned all throughout. It always would fall more under anxiety and fear. So obviously that's one of the symptoms, anxiety and fear. And that's something that can be obviously handled not only by meditation, not only by exercise, but also medication, sad to say. But the deeper down the rabbit hole you go with dementia and Alzheimer's in particular, the more you're going to see medications come up. And you need to make them comfortable. And at the same time, as much as, we hate pills, we don't like taking pills, and it is what it is. It is part of the therapy that helps her manage her ailment in a calming way, and in a more human, I guess, way, a little bit more compassionate way than just obviously having someone suffer without anything. Confusion and disorientation, agitation and restlessness, and this is a big one that I saw, changes in appetite and or mood. I'm sure you've heard a lot of people talk about there's the different stages that you're going through the Alzheimer's disease. I don't know if this is equally for all of dementia, which is why I'm saying specifically Alzheimer's, and that is a change in appetite, and obviously a change of mood, as well as a change of personality. And so at the beginning, I just want sweets. I want everything that is going to make my brain sticky. I want carbs that become sugar. I want sweets that are more sugar. I just basically want a ball of sugar. And then it goes to a stage where less and less healthy food is desired. And then it gets, I guess, to another stage where not even the sugar and the sweets that once made her happy that they would want. So this is for another topic of conversation on another episode, but these are more signals of the disease being really far down the line. The loss of appetite altogether, inability to walk, get out of bed, and all that stuff. So changes in appetite or mood just in general could be related to sundowning, especially if it's sudden, or if it's something that was out of the ordinary. So I looked up what can we do, what are things to avoid, and one of the things that came up was avoid being frustrated with your loved one. I have here sundowning behavior in people with Alzheimer's disease can increase when they sense frustration, anxiety, or stress from their caregivers. So becoming irritated, becoming short. I would say that for me, the trigger is having to repeat myself. I can deal with pretty much anything else. It's the repetition that is the button that gets pushed. And as I'm sure you know, that is going to happen very often. So I just take a deep breath and repeat myself as many times as I need to. So one of the things they ask you to do is to avoid arguing. Avoid, I wouldn't say avoid becoming frustrated, because I think that's something that's going to happen, but more like avoid showing your frustration. Take deep breaths, as I mentioned, and count to 10 if you feel impatient. My tip for this is not just take 10 quick breaths, but more like, even if you're walking, pause for a moment. If you can close your eyes, do it, and do like 10 slow breaths. And I'm an advocate for caregivers. I try not to focus all about the patient, because I feel that the patient has a lot more care, or at least in our case, our loved one is so well cared for, but we're not being cared for ourselves. So it's important for the two of you. It is important for you, the caregiver, or whoever the caregiver is. Maybe you're a friend of a caregiver, and maybe you just care so much about that person that you want them to learn and to understand. And it's super important for the person that you are caring for, or in this case, the patient. Tips. All right. These are actual things that some of these I have started to do with our loved one. And I will say they do work. So this first one is a challenging one, because if you have children, or if your schedule isn't really a routine, this is going to be challenging, but as much as you can, stick to a consistent sleep schedule, meaning sleep hygiene, meal times, that means for them and for you, and activity levels throughout the day. Be patient, but mostly importantly, practice good sleep hygiene, as I said. Recognize when you need a break and rest. They very specifically stated your sleep is just as important as your loved ones. You can't help them cope with sundowning symptoms if you're both exhausted. And this is one that I could highlight, bold, set in caps, neon lights blinking for my sibling, and it would probably receive a shake in the head or a nod and saying, yes, I get it. But it's something that is very, very, very important. It's like I mentioned in one of my previous posts, it's like being on an airplane and the oxygen mask dropping. You need to put it on yourself first so that you can help anyone and everyone around if you can. But taking care of everybody else first is gonna cost, because at the end you may be the one passing out and then nobody's around to help them. So your sleep, your own well-being, your taking a break and rest is important. During the daytime, this is the one that we just started here at home, and it's been so helpful. During the daytime, open window coverings for maximum exposure to bright light. So from the moment you wake up, or he, she, they, them wakes up, bring in the light. Make sure that there's a clear understanding it's morning, it's daytime, the day has started. At dusk, close the window coverings and turn lights on to eliminate any shadows caused by the delayed daylight. Shadows can confuse people with dementia. Incorporate common activities they'll associate with being in their space during the evening, like doing a puzzle, having a snack, or enjoying a phone call with a loved one. In my situation, I do things a little bit different. I will go into something actually I just practiced an hour ago. Coloring. Our loved one loves coloring books or crossword puzzles. But activities that are not gonna create a lot of mental chatter or raise their, I guess, awareness of the world. And I'm doing this as a segue to say, avoid the news at nighttime, please. Monitor the screen time on the TV and smart devices. Certain content can be upsetting for people with dementia. Again, the news being one of them. And I say that because it's not only an anxiety creating topic, politics, the wars, the famine, finances, all these things are stressors, they're warriors. And if you are with dementia, there's also already a chance that you're gonna possibly have dreams. These dreams can become very confusing. If you saw something that was upsetting to you, trying to give you a picture, if you are, let's say, the patient with dementia, if you're watching something about politics that really upsets you, you can end up having a dream about it, and then you wake up thinking that this dream is reality. And so all this is more confusion for the patient to deal with, which of course then becomes more stress for the caregiver to manage. Two more, and I think, well, three more, and we're going to be done. Limit the daytime napping. Limit caffeine and sugar to morning hours. So our loved one used to have a decaf coffee in the afternoon. There is no coffee here anymore in the afternoon for her. So now regular or decaf in the morning. Sweets and pastries are not going to take place in the afternoon. If you are traveling with your loved one and you're going to a place that is not familiar, bring familiar items to that place with you. It could be a blanket, it could be a pillow, it could be the best idea ever, pictures, family pictures. If you're going on vacation, bring them so that they realize that they're together, that you are all in there together, and that there is no anxiety associated with being in a completely strange place. And the last one, encourage relaxation techniques, as we sort of already touched on, such as reading, listening to music. I would say, again, same thing with the reading, right? You want something that is not, I would say, possibly even a little boring, that way they can lull to sleep. Listening to music, like relaxing music, or sometimes even white noise, and taking a warm bath. I would suggest doing it with like lavender oils or lavender soap that they have for helping with sleep. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with is, I asked how important was sundowning to a patient, and our neurologist said that it can be greatly important, especially when it comes to anxiety. I know that there are medications that may be a little too strong. They definitely don't apply to our case. One of them is, I think, called Rexulti, that are FDA approved. But I mean, if you can manage sundowning with just the tips that we've given you here, that's great. But definitely discuss all these things with your doctor. So this is it. This is a conversation that I've been wanting to have for a couple of months now. And I wanted to have more of an understanding and our own doctor's opinion as to how he felt about it. And he completely agreed that sundowning is something that deeply affects patients. It's just for some reason, and I didn't ask why he never mentioned it, but they probably did, just in a different words, like talking to a 2-year-old rather than with the right terminology. But I do believe that learning and understanding more of how they speak within the field regarding your loved one's care can give you more empowering and a better sense of contribution and showing interest, so that you can be taken perhaps more seriously and people can give you better answers. So that's my 2 cents for now. Thank you guys so much for joining me as always. I hope this has been useful information, and I wish you a great week. Take care.